Tonight's guest has lived two lives in front of an audience. First as a professional wrestler, and now as a podcaster, as well as being a diehard Miami Hurricanes fan. Tonight, we're going to talk about the inside the wrestling business, the stories some fans might not get to hear, and his love for one of the most iconic programs in college football. This is Saturdays and Stories. My guest tonight, Warren, thank you for coming on. Can you just introduce yourself a little bit? Tell us about you and what you got going on.
All right, man. Obviously, if anybody doesn't know, I like to joke, say, hey, if you want to Google me, you'll see that it says Buzzing with Marlo. I'm the host of the Buzzing with Marlo podcast. We talk all things. There's just only two things I don't try not to put in the episodes because you don't know how people will feel, politics and religion. So you know how those can go, but we could talk about anything. It's always focused on the guest. And of course, I was a pro wrestler, so I have a great collabing show every Saturday. Commission talks with my boy Dre on Wheels from the 1130 podcast, and we talk dad rants, we talk what's going on in pro wrestling that weekend, and then of course we talk about something that's not really used a lot, and that's just based off us. How's our health? How's our mental health stability? I'm still getting used to the mental health background thing. It I was raised a lot different. I mean, I don't know how else to put that, but you said it first, man. I like the Jaguars, but I'm a diehard Miami Hurricanes fan, and it's been it's been some tough times, especially for me in my years of it, because I hear how great my team was in the 80s and all that. I didn't get to live all that. So it was really upsetting. But obviously this season and the past season, I kind of felt like it was that 80s feel, like how everybody used to brag. But yeah, man, I'm a Hurricanes fan. I bleed orange and green until I die.
So, what makes you different than any other guest is the professional wrestling background. So, I want to touch on that first. First of all, how did you get involved in something like this?
All right. Well, I actually in high school I was a high school basketball player. Really hard, headstrong in playing high school basketball. Got into a little bit of college realm a little bit, and then also made one team and decided I wanted to make another team. Well, I didn't really have a choice, but I made Team Dad, and needless to say, had a kid, had my first son, my son Matthew, with my high school sweetheart. Stuff didn't work, and you know how those stories go. I mean, people can put their opinions on whatever. This way, I just speak it on my end. Um, the reason how I got into pro wrestling is because I didn't want to go to jail for doing anything dumb. And needless to say, I had a friend of mine. He's like, "Hey, I got this guy. He runs a company. Why don't you go check it out? Whatever." I haven't watched pro wrestling in a while and stuff like that. I would love pro wrestling as a kid. My mom, my grandparents, everyone, all pro wrestling. I was a WWE head from the day I was born, basically. Um, so got it. Contact him. His name was Chris Turner. Um, and then also found out he does a training school, and it was even better. It was in Jacksonville. So I didn't have to go too far because, man, when I was looking up wrestling training schools, I mean, holy cow. I was not thinking I'm going to Tampa. I didn't think
Yeah.
I'm only 23 years old. I don't know if I'm taking that travel out there yet. But got in it, just did it as a hobby. Like I said, man, I needed to get my mind off of things. A lot of things were not really good at home. So it was good to get this moment and get that chance. Uh, the biggest issue I had in pro wrestling wasn't the bumps, it wasn't hitting the ropes, it wasn't really the moves. It was the fact that I just couldn't stop smiling, and I would get punched in the face, I'm smiling. I'm getting kicked, I'm smiling. I'm throwing clotheslines and stuff. I'm constantly smiling. So he pulls me aside and he's like, "Hey, you're doing good, but can you ease up on the smile? Like, we get it. You want to be the good guy and all that, but you can't smile getting punched in the face." And it just would not stop. And needless to say, we came up with a suggestion. If I wanted to make this thing a real thing, I need to look into wearing a mask. And I was not for it at first just because, masked wrestlers, they're flippy dippy doing all that crazy stuff. That wasn't me. And I remember when we came up with the idea, he's like, "Hey, here's an idea I've got. You run with it and you be creative and you fix and do what else you want from it." So the idea he wanted American gimmick. That means a character. Um, American wrestler, but you need a mask and you're gonna be very patriotic. I was a big Captain America fan, so something Captain America type esque. Obviously
Was
in
it a
pro
luchador
wrestling.
type mask?
No, it was not.
Okay, okay.
Um, I had reached out to this guy. He makes a lot of really good masks in Mexico, and my idea was I want Spider-Man meets Power Ranger because I wanted something that was different. Obviously, you got the typical USA mask. There's not that many American USA good guy wrestling masks. There's only two: Patriot, Rey Mysterio. That's all you've got out of all of those. And there was no one else. So I got this thing, and I told him I want a Spider-Man meets Power Rangers type thing. I wanted my eyes covered, and which that is not known in pro wrestling. Like when you have a mask, usually your eyes are cut out, something, so you can reveal. I wanted to change that. I wanted my whole eyes covered and everything. And needless to say, I didn't know what Deadpool was at first. Um, it got it to be looking like completely like an American Deadpool mask. And needless to say, I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And then I see a video coming out in October when I was about to debut, might I add, right after I just graduated training school after 8 months of that. Um, I'm super excited. I get my mask and stuff like that. And then I look on this trailer and it says, "Coming soon, Deadpool." And I'm looking at its mask. I'm looking down at my mask. The only thing is different is mine's blue and his is red. And, I was like, I already spent a good amount of money on this thing. We're
Yeah,
going with it. We're going with it. It is what it is. And man, it grew real quick. Instead of me carrying an American flag, I was a big AJ Styles fan, so I did the gloves. Because when I was a kid, man, I love Power Rangers, and
yeah,
pro wrestling is like you're living a kid dream type scenario. And I was like, man,
yeah.
you don't see like a pro wrestling Power Ranger form. Like, obviously, I wasn't going to wear a full suit. Obviously, I was shirtless and, just American tights, the mask and the glove. And I had a nice sleeve. I wanted to make it more different than from the Patriot and stuff like that. And it's very hard to make these characters. Like, people don't realize when you've
Hmm.
had such an iconic character for so long and you're trying to make something new and you got to make it fresh and you got to make this thing be like this, so they can't click on and say, "Oh, that reminds me of the Patriot." Like, it's got to be, that's the American Prodigy. And it was a heck of a ride my first year.
And what was
Never
your
thought I
name?
was going to do it. The American Prodigy.
American Pride.
And I wrestled for almost 10 years with it, and I got to travel a lot of great places. One of my main championships I've ever won was an alternative championship. I got to win that one in a high school gymnasium that I actually played their high school and won the county championship from there. So
Oh,
it
that's
was a
cool.
pretty cool, come to Jesus moment from all that. But yeah, man, I loved it. Um, it, it
What was the moment you decided I could make a career out of this? Was there a moment, or did it just kind of happen?
See, I was doing it as a hobby at first,
Hmm.
and the biggest deal was I wasn't allowed to get paid my first year. Not necessarily get paid, but it was basically I wanted the experience, and I agreed to this. A
Hmm.
lot of pro wrestlers, if they're watching this, they're gonna look at me and go, "Dude, you were dumb. You should have been paid from the beginning to the end," type scenario. And I just loved it. I just wanted to experience it and stuff like that. Now, when you said that I wanted to do it as a career, is when I went to an NXT show in Jacksonville. It was at an armory, And needless to say, man, I looked at these guys and I looked at myself. I'm like, I'm not any really that much different from them. And,
Mhm.
I was sitting there, I was like, sometimes you got that voice in your head and you're like, dude, there's a reason why they're there and you're here. And I mean, it took a while for me to like figure those pieces out at the same time. And then when I listen to podcasters like Stone Cold and them talk about their time in the indies, and I'm like, oh, they relate to what I've done. So it got to a
Yeah.
point where I was like, you know what? If I can do something from this side, I can get to there. And man, when that was coming, I was pushing, I was pedal to the metal for a while. And until when I got hurt, and then it was like, yeah, we gotta put it on hold.
Yeah.
We got a baby on the way, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
necks don't heal as good as legs and stuff like that. So
Absolutely.
you had to put it on
Absolutely.
hold.
Who was your biggest influences growing up in wrestling?
Oh, my all-time favorite of all time. I joke about it. He takes half my paycheck. I drank energy drinks of Zoa just because of him. I buy a tequila just because it's his tequila.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, Dwayne the Rock Johnson. I just love the character. I love what he presents, and he's one of those guys I feel like if you met your hero, you're not disappointed.
Yeah.
And, I've met great people that were on wrestling TVs and stuff in the past. I never got to meet him. Never got to meet
Yeah.
The Rock.
Hmm. And he's went to Miami too, so
Exactly. And that was another thing that got me hooked into Miami at the
yeah.
University of Miami as well as obviously with The Rock.
Um, so what was the hardest part about breaking in? Was it just getting the
Oh,
character ready or
a little bit of that. And obviously,
learning the moves? I mean,
not even necessarily that. My biggest worry is how to put matches together. And I could follow somebody. I could follow like nobody's business. I could listen. I was good with that part. Like my first year, I was really good because I just listened. And needless to say, my first title match I had Lowe's, I know this guy was very experienced, but at the same time, he couldn't really call a match. So it was a challenge for me because I had to learn how to call it in the ring for the first time in my life. And I thought it was going to be an absolute cluster, but it actually was really good. The crowd loved it and stuff like that. And then it made me like, okay, that made sense with him based off of his size and this. So it got to a point where, hold up. All right, there we go. You see me? Okay,
yeah.
there we go. Um, Needless to say, it got to a point where it was just like I was watching wrestling on TV and stuff like that, but not to watch it just to be entertained. I was watching it to like study, like
Mhm.
like game film and stuff like that. Like when we talk about people that I watched, man, I was watching '80s wrestlers. I'm talking about Brad Armstrong, Tim Horner, and stuff like that. Like there's some old guys, and
Yeah.
watching just how they moved and like how everything was pieced out in matches. That was the hardest thing for me was like, what is good right now? What to put into a middle part, and at the same time, I'm a baby face. If you don't know what that means, that's a good guy and stuff like that in pro wrestling terms. And I always say it. Any pro wrestler will tell you it's harder to be a baby face than it is to be a bad guy. And baby face if you're going into especially in the indies, no one really
Mhm.
knows you. So if you go to these new companies and stuff like that, you gotta showcase and like get this crowd to go for you. Like when you first come out, they're not gonna be all high five because they don't know who you are. And
Yeah.
that was a hard thing for me at first. Like I'm thinking because I had the guys, some of the promoters I had, like, filling my head. I'm like, all right, man, I'm starting to be a really known deal over here. And when I went to this one show, and the crowd didn't know who I was. They just liked my mask. They just liked those certain things. But then when they saw that was stuff that I was doing in the ring, and
Mhm.
more importantly, I was interacting with them. That was something I would say was really tough too. And this is something I tell any pro wrestler starting out. build your crowd chemistry more than anything because they will help you dictate what to do in a match, how to do it, how to get a reaction out of it, how they can care about you, how they can boo you. It's like a whole analogy with it. And when you get that down, man, it just keeps going up higher and higher. So that was something
Absolutely.
that I really take a pride that I got now because
Mhm.
that frustrated the crap out of me because I was at the point it's like, all right, I'm very entertaining. I can do these things. I can listen. I can, work with the best of them. But at the same time, there were some moves that I did that the crowd would kinda, like, fall away from because it just didn't make sense. So
Yeah.
it was like those things were the parts, like, it would really frustrate me. One, the fact that the match wasn't good or whatever, it was that I would get beat up I would beat myself for messing up on a drop kick or certain things like that, and it would kinda, like, hurt my whole mindset in those matches, and when they'd have them on film, I hated watching them back because 'cause I'm like, "Ah, there's that dang drop kick. There's that part," and then it's like, I don't even wanna watch it no more. So,
Yeah.
I would say that was definitely the hardest thing is just realize, "Hey, man, just work comfortably, get the crowd chemistry standpoint, and everything else is gonna go."
Is there something that fans might not understand about being a wrestler?
Oh, man, now
How much does it
you gonna
hurt?
make me a heel for that one.
Yeah.
I tell you, you gotta love it to do it.
Yeah.
It's a lot more you're gonna do a lot more than what you're gonna be earned at first, and you're gonna realize, like, "Hey, man, it can get better, but it's based on you,
Yeah.
and you can't just rely on other people to grow this thing. You have to do it yourself." And I think that's what helped me with my podcast is because I already knew how to promote certain things and stuff like that because I had that experience for my pro
Yeah.
wrestling time and stuff like that. So that's something that I would tell someone for sure. Like that's like, man, this ain't like WWE. Like you're
Yeah.
doing stuff like the guys in WWE, but at the same time, your shows are not covered.
Yeah.
Your gas bill is not going to be, you might work a deal with a promoter or two on that, but same time, unless you got sponsors, everything's coming out of your pocket. And, the
How far
wives,
did
you
how
don't know
far
what
did you
they're
have to
doing.
travel?
Um, it just depends. I was very picky
Yeah.
with mine. I think the furthest I went like, drive-wise was North Carolina.
Okay.
I flew to Texas. I was not driving
Yeah.
from Florida to Texas. That was not even in the discussion. I kinda lost money on that one because, like I said,
Yeah.
I worked a deal with him, but he kinda loaded the pay because he's like, "Hey, I'll pay for this flight, but that's gonna be out of your pay." And I'm like, "You know what? I ain't gotta drive, so I'm good."
Yeah.
It
Do you
was
have a
fun
most
being a champ for sure. When you were the champ,
Yeah.
they kinda, like, give you a nice little royalties to it.
Yeah. Do you have a most memorable match or an opponent that you wrestled that stands out above all the rest?
Alright, so my first run, well, obviously, I always say it, Wesley McRoberts, if nobody knows him, was less fortunate. Um, he was the Joker to my Batman. Um, we didn't really like each other at first, and I think it helped us in those scenarios. He asked to work with me and stuff like this was my first year, and man, when I tell you, we built a chemistry until when it was our first match. It was I could tell you exactly when it was. Are you familiar with Nassau County by chance?
Not no.
Okay. So there's an area called Fernandina Beach, and Nassau County is by four counties. So you got Yulee, Fernandina, Hilliard, and Callahan.
Mhm.
And we actually got to have a big show in Fernandina, which that was really not far away from me at that time. And I'm thinking like I'm bragging to my girlfriend now, my wife now. I was just bragging like, yeah, man, we're gonna kill it. I'm excited about this and stuff. And needless to say, pro wrestling taps are a lot different when you feel like you're in a comfortability with somebody
Mhm.
and he just wants to beat the living tar out of you just to see if you could take the beating and that was gonna be my first win at the same time, so he was gonna make me earn that win.
Yeah.
And I'll send you the clip of that match after all this. But yeah, man, I would definitely say Wesley. Wesley was my favorite opponent. But yeah, man. Now my comeback scenario was we built something on my 100th episode with a certain individual named El Nino. And I told him we didn't really know each other at the time, but he knew of me and he was trying to bring me back into wrestling. And everybody knew I was slightly getting healthy again. And needless to say, everybody was thinking the same thing, like, Warren looks more healthier now. Like, he's in tank tops more. He's more in that comfortability again. Like, when I got hurt and my neck was messed up, man, I stopped going to the gym. And anybody that knew me, I was a diehard gym rat. And when I got hurt and stuff like that, man, I had to learn everything again. Like, I'm doing full workouts with resistant bands for crying out loud. I mean, I could barely even lift the 5 pound weights. When my daughter was born, I could barely even hold her because how much pain I was in. And so when we did this comeback thing, I told him, I said, you're gonna earn it. And we didn't go over anything that I was gonna say because he built this thing up like a dang WWE event. It was so cool. Because he would go on my social media and just bash my guests, bash them. And I mean, just anybody that was talking on my podcast or anything, just bash them every single week. Like he would just sit there and get in the comments and just kind of like get his name known in the thing. So it got to build up to the 100th episode. I was like, who's gonna be my guest for this? I actually brought him on, and instead of like how I normally do my guests, respectfully, let them present their stuff and like that, I was the most disrespectful person to come to man to this guy because he was being disrespectful to my guests. So I think he deserved it back. So I would mute his mic. I would cut him out during our interview back and forth and made it seem like we were doing technical difficulties, making it sound like it was his fault, certain things. And needless to say, we went 2 hours and the very end, he kept saying, I'm calling you out. I'm calling you out. Do you accept this? Like you're you're talked about in the locker room in a wrong way. Like it was come to a point like people knew I was good enough and they thought, hey, he's going to eventually come back. And Nino won the bet apparently because he got me to come back. At the very end, I cut my camera off and I put my mask on. Then I came back on. And this was a live episode. And man, we were doing really good. And needless to say, because he was getting people so riled up on this chat, whatever. I mean, he was doing really good with it. I got people calling me, so I'm trying to cancel my phone. What needless to say, I'm recording this episode on my phone, so I'm having people calling me, so I'm having to ignore the calls
Yeah.
and do all these things just to kind of keep playing it off, right? And needless to say, I said, you got it, but be careful what you wish for because now I'm back. And man, when I say, and then the craziest thing is, usually you would continue that on, right? I took a season break after that and it blew up. Like I got to the point where I had made my first guest appearance back, and that's the first thing they were talking about. It kept going. Social media was going nicely about it, and I was not very good with TikTok, but I would sit there and clip that thing, and that really drew off really well. And I had promotions calling me constantly, like, "Hey, we want to book this. Hey, we want to do this." And I kept canceling them, but we would tell on the podcast to make it seem like, "Hey, we cannot book this match," and it got even more built up. And then, needless to say, it got to a promotion that we were supposed to do, because my son being autistic, it was for an autism championship. And that's what I
Hmm.
was going to come back and, do this thing for LCCW. And it was going to be a big match we were going to do for them because I respect with autism and stuff like that, me being a father of a child with autism. And that kind of fell off. And then it got to the being where we went to a big promotion, his main homestay promotion. They've been wanting me a long time in the past, but I never thought I would get to go there, and I'm talking about DCCW. Um, they're Christian based first, then pro wrestling. And needless to say, man, when I tell you we built up this match, it was a tag match, and there was a special guest as the opponent. Like they had one guy, but he had to go get an opponent, and everyone thought it would have possibly been me. But at the same time, they're like, he's never worked at that promotion before, so I don't think he'll show up. I don't think he would be there. And then when I popped up and stuff, man, it was so relieving because I'm thinking people are not gonna know who I am. They're not gonna care. Now, when I say that building was screaming prodigy, prodigy, and this is my first time ever in this bit venue and stuff like that, it was the most uplifting thing I've ever felt. And
Uh,
it defeats any title or anything. Like that moment for that was just the absolute adrenaline rush that I could have retired off of that. And needless to
yeah,
say, I got so into it. It was supposed to have been a one off. I actually did a full run with it. So it was
yeah.
like it was a really nice, cool thing. Like I got to have that moment that I was hurt from the neck injury to actually come back, rebuild myself, and at the same time leave something on my own terms. So
Yeah,
that's something I will always be happy about.
that's that's pretty cool. So after your wrestling career ends, you said you started a podcast before your wrestling career ended, huh? So what
Oh,
made
I
you
started a
what
podcast after my first time. This
after
was
your first
right
time?
after that COVID era is when I technically was retired.
So like 2021 was
Mhm.
when you started?
Yeah.
What made you decide to turn to podcasting?
I got tired of hearing reruns. I got tired of
Yeah,
hearing all these things, and there was this app called the Anchor app, and needless to say, it was free, something try it out and stuff like that, and I got into the thing, and, it man, it just grew from there.
what do you enjoy most about podcasting? Just
Well, at first, I thought it was you just read a book, and, this is like a read along. One thing I'll say I love about college, you have a lot of interesting games. Like
yeah,
I feel like you get more excited for the rivalry games in college than you do in pro. Because me
absolutely.
being a Jags fan, I mean, obviously you got your typical Titans games, stuff like that. But at the same time,
It's not the
you're
same.
getting
It's
paid.
not the
I
same as
mean, we
Miami,
can't we
Florida.
can't say that anymore now. You're getting paid to play in college, but at the same
Yeah,
time, boy,
Miami,
it just
Florida
feels
State
different.
just
It just
it's
feels different.
and that's why I don't even like the NFL. That's why I bleed college football.
Mhm.
From 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock p.m. I have college football on my TV every Saturday. Every Saturday, I'm going to a few games
Mhm.
this year. If I get a little bit of traction, I'd like to go more and do like campus reviews and stuff like that. I'm assuming you've been to games in Miami.
Mhm.
Have you been to any road games?
Not recent ones. I've only
Yeah.
been the ones in Orange Bowl.
Oh, okay. So that's been a while.
It's been a long time.
All right. Well,
I
having
wanna
kids,
go to those Hard Rock games, but them Hard Rock games are they almost Super Bowl money, it seems like, holy cow.
especially
I don't
since
wanna go to a weak team one either, I wanna go to, like, a Florida State, Miami, stuff like that.
yeah,
Now that we're getting control, I had a chance to go to a Miami and Florida State game because I kinda backed out because it was the year they had Jameis Winston and all that,
yeah,
and it was just like, don't wanna go to that. Do I wanna go to that? We've lost 6 years in a row.
yeah,
Granted, it's only by a point or a field goal. Do I really want to be upset and live instead of just
yeah,
watching on TV? And as to say, they won that one, and I was just like, you know what? I'm okay that I didn't go.
yeah. So let's get into the meat of the show.
Okay.
Get back to college football now that we learned a bit about you. So the Hurricanes. How you live in Jacksonville? You have Florida. You have Florida State. You have
Oh, cannot
Miami.
be a Gator fan. Cannot do it.
How did you end up being a Hurricane fan?
Um, Obviously, I came from a military background. My dad, we moved a lot, and I had a chance instead of going somewhere, I got to move with my uncle in Miami, and I got to experience a different lifestyle than I was used to.
Hmm.
And man, I loved Miami. I loved it. And man, when I tell you, you go to those places and it's just orange and green, Miami Hurricane shirts in the most random spots. Like it got to a point out because when I was younger, I mean, I heard about Miami and I've heard like how good they were. I mean, you had your typical people in my area was, Florida Gator fans, whatever. I didn't
Yeah.
like the blue and orange. I thought that was the weirdest combo ever, and I just didn't like this crap. I didn't like it. And man, when
I'll
I
have to
tell you,
clip
I
that
got
and put that.
latched onto the
Like you just did the gator chomp. I'll clip that and put
yeah,
that on
I hated
TikTok.
that. I hated that thing. I was just like, that's the most goofiest thing ever. And then I just kept watching Miami, and they were like, man, they just look like animals. And it
Yeah.
was just like I got hooked on them. And then like I said, I'm a Rock fan. Rock came to a Miami show. It was a Monday Night Raw in Miami, and he had his own jersey on. It was a Miami Hurricane one, and it was actually his old '91 jersey, or
Yeah.
his old I think it's '94 or something like that. I think it's '94 he had. He had Dwayne, the Rock on his back of his jersey. I was like, he went there, and it got me a little bit more interest. But the funny thing is, my mom was a Miami fan. Well, she was a Miami fan, and then when they started losing, she went to the dark side. But yeah, my mom kinda had an influence into it, but at the same time, I didn't wanna follow along with the group that were Gator fans, and I w dang sure wasn't gonna be a Florida State fan. I thought they had girl colors. There ain't no way I'm wearing that. But man, when you saw that orange and green, and then when I got to go to the Orange Bowl and stuff like that, it just felt different. And I mean, I just got hooked on it, and I never stopped. Never stopped.
Is there a certain game you remember from your earliest memories that really got you hooked? Or is it
Oh man, when
just
we
the
beat Florida,
experience?
in that it was that bowl game. I I knew I was a Miami fan. I knew it. And I knew my dad was gonna be mad because he's a Florida Gator fan. My grandparents were gonna be mad. They were Florida Gator fans. Like it felt the most relieving thing. Like when I tell you I was in school in primary school and I'm sitting there watching, I can go pride with my Miami Hurricane stuff on, watching all these Florida kids cry. It was the best feeling
Hmm.
ever in my life.
How would you explain the culture of being the Hurricane fan though? How would you explain that to other people?
I feel like we're against everybody. I feel, as a kid with Miami, I knew it was those typical things, all right. My biggest thing that I never understood was we're Miami, Florida. And when people celebrate Florida teams, they never included Miami for a long time. And it would drive me nuts because I'm like, it says Miami and then it says Florida. How are we not compared to, Florida Gators, Florida State, all these different Florida teams? They never put Miami in that same category. And it used to bug
Mhm.
me because it's like, when I go South Florida and stuff, I could always see Miami Hurricane stuff, but when I was here in Jacksonville, I could only get Miami stuff at Foot Locker or, certain sports stores, and, those weren't cheap ones either. So it's
Mhm.
like I would always get frustrated with that because I'm just like, "Man, it's a Florida team. How come we're not selling them here?" Because I see the Florida States for crying out loud, we're selling Georgia stuff. Like,
Yeah.
why we ain't getting Miami stuff? Like that thing was the part that frustrated me for the longest time. And I hated when people talked about, "Oh, Miami's not really a Florida team." How? It says Miami, Florida. It
Yeah.
used to just drive me nuts. And it got to a point where it's like, you know what? I see what fan bases do nowadays. And then like when you said you heard about what they did in the '80s and stuff like that. Nobody wanted to play Miami.
Yeah.
And needless to say, man, when it got to my middle school year and all the way up, it was rough to be a Miami fan. Um, I remember that's when they had that, what was that, 7-year no bowl game suspension or something like that, and it
Yeah. It was.
just it was deteriorating. I remember there was seasons I'm sitting there watching Miami win 4 games a season, and I'm just like, "What's this team that we used to brag about? Where is
Yeah.
this?" It got tough. It
Yeah.
got tough.
Well, luckily now you don't have to worry about
Man, I
that.
got picked on in high school from wearing my jersey all the time. I remember the last Tim Tebow game they had. It was the very first game of the season. This was a year that Miami got all the Miami Northwestern guys, and we were starting Ja'Cory Harris. You remember how big hype they were talking about Ja'Cory Harris coming out of Miami Northwestern. They just won the state championship. They brought literally the whole high school onto that Miami Hurricane team. And you still have Dorsett. You had certain ones still there. And man, when we lost to that last quarter, we shut Tebow down for the whole game, and then we lost that last bit in that last quarter. It felt like someone stabbed me in the chest, man. I was so devastated. And then I had to hear all that crap at school. I used to get picked on wearing my jerseys and stuff, man, because it was like, I gotta be a fan, but it's like, man, y'all making it tough for me to wear this clothes.
Uh,
Florida would never play Miami without a freshman team. They always had to have a brand new team for Florida to actually play Miami. And I never understood that either. I was like, why is Florida only playing Miami like every 4 to 5 years? Like that
scheduling is
bugged the crap
tough,
out of me.
and it's going to be even worse in the coming years because of the nine
Oh
game
boy.
conference schedule for the SEC now. So they're just going to play cupcakes out of conference and Florida State. So
Do the Notre Dame
it's
way.
I wouldn't look for a Florida Miami game for a little while. I would guess.
Well, we've got a good track record right now, so I
Yeah.
don't think Florida wants to play us.
Who's your favorite Miami player ever?
Oh man. Willis McGahee.
Yeah,
Willis McGahee, man.
that's
I was devastated when he got hurt that championship game.
yeah,
That was the year I felt like we had everything. Now my secondary one, it's gonna be shocking and sad just based off the ending, but I love the story that they had with him. Obviously, it's gonna be Cam Ward. Cam Ward brought Miami back, and
yeah.
it needed. And I say it constantly. I was like, dude, if Cam Ward would have gave us 2 years, we'd have won a national championship. We would have won a national championship.
See where I disagree is I think Mario Cristobal brought Miami back.
Yeah, Mario did, but I'm saying
Yeah,
like we used to have all these hype up quarterbacks for the longest
yeah,
time. And I remember when we had Tyler Van Dyke, we felt like we were finally picking something up. Like I loved Manny Diaz as our coach because I felt like Manny knew the team. Manny
yeah.
knew these guys. I mean, Manny brought the turnover chain, which it revolutionized for almost 3 years for football, and not even just college. Like the NFL players were doing it. Like people gave us a lot of crap, but it was the same thing as we were the first to do a lot of things,
Hmm.
and it either was a hit or miss, or it put a big target on us because Lord have mercy, when that turnover chain came up, it got to the point where the TV was literally putting TVs on Miami just to see who's going to get the turnover chain that
Yeah.
year. And then when the Georgia coach, I can't remember his name, Mark
Kirby.
Rick,
Oh, Mark
no,
Richt.
Mark
Yeah.
Rick. And then obviously he goes down, and then Manny Diaz goes to be the head coach. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, this is going to be a different team. Like, this is going to be a full, passionate Miami Hurricanes team. And as good as they were, which is sad to say, Manny didn't have a losing record with that Miami program. I'm very glad that we got who we got now because, my goodness, if it wasn't for Mario Cristobal,
I
we
wouldn't
would
want to meet him in a
not
dark
even be.
alley. He kind of scares me a little
Oh my
bit.
goodness. He's a well, also to find out he's the reason why The Rock got hurt his first year. Like his freshman year. Mario Cristobal and him were in a drill and he ripped his shoulder right out of his socket.
Oh, geez, I
So
didn't
I'm
know that.
like, you don't want to mess with Mario.
Yeah, yeah, that's a pretty cool story. Have you have a favorite game you attended, or just one you watched, one that really stands
Oh
out to you?
man. Dude. Yeah. It was the Miami and Florida game. It's gonna be a Miami,
Yeah.
but no, actually, it was the Miami Florida State game. This was when they had Stephen Morris as quarterback, and this is that year we finally, after 7 damn years, excuse my cussing, 7 years straight, we lost to Florida State. We finally broke that streak. And it
Yeah.
got to a point where we never lost those again. And that was the best moment ever because it got to a point like you didn't know what Florida State was, you didn't know what Miami was, but at the same time, you were nervous about that game because I say it still
And
to
a
this day,
rivalry game,
that
anything can
game
happen.
was a legit rivalry. That game could have made you or break you, and that usually broke Miami because we would have a great season right before that November time, go play Florida State and lose that game, and then lose the rest of the season. And gosh, I can't even tell you how many times we were ranked. And that game right there made sure we were not going to be ranked for a long time. And, when we finally beat Florida State that year, man, it just felt so relieved because it was like, all right, we're getting back off that speed bump. Now we're
Yeah.
starting to keep it momentarily going. But man, what Tony and all these guys are doing now, man, I can't wait. I haven't looked at anything with Miami this season yet just because I'm still curing. I'm still recovering from, that national championship game.
Yeah.
It was so cool. I mean, the only thing I thought was so cool was I me being a Jaguars fan, I have a playoff team. You know why? Because my team never made the playoffs. So it got
Yeah.
to a point where it's like I know where I'm standing in this situation. So when we made it to the playoffs and made it as far as we did, I'm like, this don't feel right. And
Yeah.
the Miami game, and I'm sitting there thinking, there's no way we are about to witness a national championship game in Miami after a team that wasn't even projected into the playoffs
And
was
I think they were an underdog in every game
we
they
were an
played, weren't they?
underdog in every single game. I remember it to this day. I remember guys at work were telling me they're like, dude, y'all haven't played the guys like y'all haven't been in the stadium like a Texas A&M. Y'all are not gonna know what to do in that type of environment. It was a tough game,
That
but
was
man,
it was really windy, wasn't it?
it
That
was
game?
very windy. No,
Yeah.
no, nobody was throwing anything that game,
Yeah.
and thank goodness we had our running back, man. He was, that I know, and man, that defense. We had the worst defense with Cam Ward. And that was our downfall, and that was the reason why we didn't make the playoffs that year, which I still
Yeah.
say today. If we would have had that team into the playoffs, it could have been a different scenario because they were scoring 50 points a game. It didn't
Yeah.
matter who they were playing against. And then when we lost to Virginia Tech, I knew. I'm like, oh, there it is. So witnessing this national championship game, I'm like, dude, I'm watching this for my team. Like,
Yeah.
this hasn't happened since I was almost born. Like, what is
Yeah.
happening here? Like, and man, when I say it was really relieving. Like, dude, seeing Tony was only 17 coming off this field, and like what he did with that just did with this season, and it looked like he looked like a veteran as a freshman. And might
Yeah.
add, he graduated early just so he could play. So I'm hoping and praying we have him all 4 years. NIL money, you need to give it to him all you can get. I'm
Yeah.
approving it right now.
And
Um,
I think in the future you might see some of that with how crazy
and the same thing
payments
with the
are for
recruit level
NIL.
right now.
They might want to stay in college longer.
Exactly. And that's the thing too. And I told a lot of people, I said, this is the biggest positive of this. And this is something that when I was playing college sports and stuff like that, I'm playing at a Florida Atlantic and stuff like that. But there's nobody from Florida or from the state of Florida playing in this because guess what? A lot of guys from the state of Florida know they're not going to win a championship or anything at their home area unless if you played in Florida Gators or something like that at that time.
Hmm.
So us getting those 2 seasons back to back at a very high ranking, our recruiting was exceptional. Like I'm really looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with Mensa. Like, it's going to be an exciting season. Like this offense is looking just as powerful as it was before. Now the defense, I don't know anything about it. Like I said, I haven't followed anything on it because
Yeah.
I don't want to get my hopes up too high because I remember and I even admit it, man. I'm a big Carson Beck fan because, dude, all that he got that season. Like everybody talking about, man, Carson Beck is a big flop. I don't know why y'all paid him this. In reality, if it weren't for Beck, we wouldn't have been in that national championship game because you got to have a good leader to control those things. And Beck, he could have just cared about himself, made the stats that he needed, and then that would have been it. But he was a team player this season. And you could really tell, like, Beck really cared to be at the University of Miami this year.
Yeah.
And the one thing I say that I was so proud of my team, obviously, making it to the championship, whatever, but that November, man, after we lost that game to SMU, after we got cheated out of, but at the same time, we lost it back through an
Yeah.
interception. There's only 2 bad games this man ever had in the Miami games, and of course, they were our losses.
Yeah.
And it's just it's really crazy to see that, and you realize, like, "Hey, man, we got another season." Like, the only thing is hard for college fans, we're diehard college football fans, but at the same time, our players are very limited. When you got the
Mhm.
NFL teams, you got your set guys. You know they're going to be there for the long haul, whatever. College is not that way,
And
especially
you
with
have
this
to
NIL now.
the coaches
It,
have to re-recruit them every year
and it's like,
because they don't.
man, I felt so bad after we lost all those guys on defense. I wish they would all just came back. I wish they would have been like that, but they wanted to cover their dream, man. And I'm seeing 2
Mhm.
years back to back where Miami players are top draft picks.
Yeah.
And it's just really cool to see like that Miami mentality again. Like I love seeing, and the coolest thing about this build was, man, Sports Center. If it wasn't for Stephen A. Smith mentioning about Miami, I don't even believe we would have been in the playoff picture. And seeing that they were on there talking about it on Sports Center and stuff like that. And you could tell Notre Dame was getting pissed because they knew if we got put in, they were going to get put out. And it was just like
But
it was
it came
so
down to the head-to-head
anticipating.
too, though.
Yeah, that was
That's
the thing I never
that's
understood.
where I
Like
that's where
you
I stood.
won, there's no excuse on this. Now, if they wanted to, you imagine how big that game would have been watched if you put Miami versus Notre Dame in the playoffs.
No.
That would have been almost like a championship game because of
It's
how that was the only 2 things that you were talking about.
yeah. I mean, it wouldn't have worked out because of the seeding thing, but
Yeah.
my opinion is, did Notre Dame belong in the playoff? Yeah, I do think they belong. But do they
They need
belong
their
over
own
Miami?
conference. I
Do I
hate I
belong
hate to
over
be that
Miami?
person.
No, I don't believe they belonged over Miami because of the head-to-head. You have
I
to
I
if
it was the problem. That was the thing that drove me nuts because
and
I
it's
never
gonna happen.
understood how
Things
Notre
like this
Dame
are gonna
got
happen
that.
every year. They're gonna happen every year.
I hate that rule they're doing with them right now. If
Look,
they win, they're in. Like it's
oh
like
yeah, if they're in the top 12, they're
you're
automatically in
basically
now.
telling teams, hey, play these cupcake teams, get you 1 or 2 strengthened schedule guys, play them, beat them, you're in. And
Yeah,
that's what that kind of give that mentality. So now you're not going to see a lot of big anticipating games right now because at the same time, people are going to be like, why are we going to waste that and lose our chances into the playoffs?
everyone is canceling those games
Yeah.
now.
And it's going to be
The
sad
other,
because now you're going to have college game day, which I'm sorry, man. College game day was revamped with Pat McAfee.
yeah,
Pat McAfee is Lee Corso on steroids. It's, I
he's Lee
mean,
Corso on something, that's for sure.
oh my goodness, man. I live to watch college game day. And
Yeah,
it's like that's one thing I just love about college football, man. It just feels like you're there to watch because you love the game.
yeah,
It's not like you're getting paid to do this. You're watching this for the love. And you could tell those guys are out there passionately are so proud that they're wearing that jersey. Regardless where they're at, whatever, they are proud to be on that field. And that's
absolutely.
something I feel like that's what people don't connect with on the same thing, and that kinda like where I feel more attached to them than I would with the Jaguars or something. I'm a diehard Jags fan. I always say Duval till I die, but at the same time, it's just different when you watch that college football, bro. It really is.
And that's exactly why I made this show because of that feeling that every one of us gets going to campus on a Saturday, you know? Uh, I just love it. I love hearing the fan stories. I I enjoy getting to know what makes you love your team.
Yeah.
So, a one-off question: do you hold your head a little bit higher now? In the past couple of years, now that Florida State's been 2-10 and 3-9, and Florida's going 6-6.
I love it at the same time, but I want them to be better just because, man, I'm tired of Florida being like a joke state. Because I say it all the
And I
time,
don't
bro.
understand
Like
because it has,
Texas and Florida are the top states in football. There's
yeah,
no ifs, ands, or buts. There's don't even come in betweens with that. Because if you look at the track record with all these top talented teams that are outside of the state of Florida, how many Florida players are playing on those
yeah,
teams? Like, y'all star quarterback. Okay, he came from Palatka, Florida, or something like that. Like,
yeah,
there's a lot of Florida guys that are building this thing. And like we just said, Miami going to a national championship in their home or whatever. That's telling people that live in Florida, hey, I can play in national championships and I can still be home. Like, I ain't got to go 500 miles away or so many hours away to, go and live my dream and win a national championship. I could do it at home.
yeah.
And I mean, look at the recruiting process now. Like it
Well,
a lot of Florida guys are staying home now. And that's the biggest problem that we had with college football for the longest time is you have all your Florida and Texas boys going everywhere else because they knew they weren't going anywhere. They knew they weren't going to be able to do that in their home state. And now we're getting those things like I talk about him all the time, man. Tony was a diehard Miami Hurricane fan to begin with, and for him to be where he is, it's a beautiful process, and that's really what I think is the concept of college football.
yeah,
Something that you've grown to be, and you actually get to be on that field, on those cleats, in those gloves, in that swagger mentality. See Sebastian and all these different things, man. It's just unreal. And like I have a thing where I watched Josh Prey. He's a comedian. He's a Florida Gator fan. And he was on that rant about Miami. He's like, y'all let Miami get in that playoffs, y'all are doomed. Y'all let them boys come in there, y'all are
yeah,
doomed. Like it was just so cool to actually hear people go, man, y'all don't want to play Miami in this playoff, but y'all are going to sit here and play around. If they get in, they're going to be a team. And it was
yeah,
just hearing Nick Saban and stuff like that because, man, 6 years ago, we would have been laughed at if thought of being in the playoffs.
yeah,
And it's just really cool to be happy to, and I mean, obviously we didn't win it, but at the same time, for us to get there, now we got to do all this process up again to get to that level again. And I mean, Miami built those ratings for the playoffs this season. I felt like this playoffs was the most exciting playoffs in a long time. And I'm not even saying just because Miami was in it. It was the fact that teams really got opportunities. Now, James Madison and all them, they did not deserve to be in the playoffs.
yeah,
I mean, they got a heck of a payday, but I don't believe we should be doing stuff like that. So we're gonna put
yeah.
two cupcake teams in there. We're gonna let Indiana and them just blow them out and just let them get a breeze by. Like I didn't believe in that. I really want us to have the top teams in each thing.
Yeah,
Um, I know there's a rumor about 24 teams. I mean, if you're doing the top 25, at least 24 teams, I feel like should be rightfully in the playoff.
you're a proponent for that.
I'd be
See,
okay with it because I
I'm,
mean, you got the top 25. Like, what's the point of you having the top 25 if you're just narrowing it down to a certain number? I'm glad it's not just the four teams because that was very politicky. So
but
it's
it's
like,
also exclusive too. I mean, that's
yeah,
how many. If you have a 2014 playoff, realistically, how many of those teams have a shot at winning a national title?
exactly.
So I like the 12. I'd like for them to stay at 12. Uh, if it goes any bigger, I'd like them to stop at 16 just because I want it to be exclusive, but I want those top teams to have a chance to play a playoff game at home because the top four don't get to play in their home stadium. If they
No.
keep it at 12, what I would like to do is make the first round the bowl games and then have the second round played in to give those
Yeah,
top four teams an advantage because they earned it, and then they have to go on the road to a Rose Bowl or a Orange Bowl
yeah.
to play
I
that
think the
game.
bowl
So
game should definitely be played in the playoffs, but at the
yeah,
same time, don't treat them like a damn
yeah,
championship every single time. Like, oh, the Sugar Bowl champs,
yeah,
or now we're gonna be the Nacho Libre,
yeah.
certain things like it. I get it; they need the money at the same time, but it's you kind of killed it, and I lost respect for Notre Dame on that. They should have played in the bowl game. Just get that thing in, because then you had a lot of teams that was just like, hey, they get to back out, but we still got to play in this thing. We got to do this, like I think it's a hit or miss, because I think that's also a good opportunity for players that don't get to play all regular season. You get that chance, you get that opportunity, and really showcase to the coach and like, hey man, look at me. And I
Yeah.
feel like Notre Dame kind of took that away from people.
Um, there was a certain model that was shown every Miami playoff game. Do you think she had some influence on getting some eyes on the Hurricanes?
What's that? I couldn't
I
hear
said
what's
there was a certain model that was shown
so.
every game. Do you
Hmm.
know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Do you think she had some influence on growing Miami football this year?
Well, I remember they had one for Florida State too,
Yeah.
and uh, I
Just a
remember
follow.
wasn't the rumor that she was dating Beck or something?
I don't, I don't know. I just remember Twitter blowing up on it every time. So just figured I'd
I
ask if
mean,
you
it
had
might.
any.
It
It might
might.
have
I
brought
mean,
some
that's a
eyes to the.
different NIL offer. I mean, hey,
Yeah.
whatever works.
Well, Miami already has pretty deep pockets as is.
I was about
So
to say. I mean, we've been known for a lot worse. So if it's for the model it is.
yeah. So professional wrestling and college football both thrive on passion and storytelling. Do you see a lot of similarities between the two?
Oh
Between
man, this season alone. I mean, a good friend of mine, especially when I was on the Indies, I got to actually have the opportunity and be around Cody Rhodes, and when he was on his indie run and stuff, like man, when I say his story where he won the title and stuff like that is how I felt with Miami this season.
yeah,
Except everyone wasn't the personal exciting factor for Miami, but at the same time, we earned everything that we got this year for Miami, because when we won that Texas A&M thing, man, we started noticing people were starting to get behind Miami. It was either they were getting behind Miami to win, or they were getting behind for whoever's
mhm,
playing Miami, get them out. Get them out.
yeah,
Prove them that they were a fluke, whatever. And I remember when they were showing when they kept showing on every week on ESPN, they're like, "Oh yeah, Miami ain't ready. Miami it is. Miami beats Texas A&M. Very close game, whatever." But they forgot to talk about, hey, it's windy as crap. You couldn't kick a ball. You couldn't even throw a ball. I remember when they punted it, they had to onside kick it because they literally could not kick it in the air. Um, they were kind of like beating around the bush, just make it sound like, oh, Miami just wasn't hanging well with them. They just found a way to win.
yeah,
And then we go and play Ohio State, which I should say that was my favorite game this year. Um, Personal favorites, they're gonna be team that's gonna obliterate Miami, especially after they just lost to Indiana. They're gonna be ready to win this game, and they had a break, whatever. And Miami on New Year's Eve, and my mother-in-law, she was a Ohio State fan. She was wearing Ohio State. I'm wearing my Miami stuff. And man, it was the most relieving thing just to keep doing this the whole damn night to her the whole time. She's like, I can't stand that thing. And it was like, it was just the build, because everyone was sitting there thinking like, oh, they're done. They're done. And then when we beat Ohio State, that's when I really felt like everyone's like, you know what? Miami deserves to win. Like
yeah,
Miami just eliminated this team type scenario. And it felt like that Cody Rhodes background, like Cody couldn't get over Roman Reigns. He had that one year, he lost that one. How is he going to get back? He had to go against a roadblock with Brock Lesnar. I say the Brock Lesnar is Ohio State for us, getting all those different things. And, it was just, it has a lot of comparisons to it. And that's what I love. I love an excitement factor. And it really brought a different feel into college football this season. And I think it needed it because as good as college football has been, bro, how many times are you gonna want to watch a national championship game with Alabama or Georgia or just a
Yeah.
SEC team every single year? Like it
Well, the
got to a
past
point. If
three have
you're in
been
the
Big Ten.
SEC, I mean, look at Alabama. Just because they were in the
Yeah.
SEC, they got voted into the playoffs, and they should never have gotten into the playoffs this season. This was
Yeah.
the worst Alabama team they've had in a long time, and then they go and get beat on playoff realm after they just lost 2 games back to back, and you got two teams scraping to get in, and
Hmm.
and you're just watching Alabama just get obliterated, and you're telling us that Alabama deserved over this team, over a Texas team, which Texas looked really nasty coming out at the last beginning of that season. You know, it's just really
They
exciting
had three
things.
losses though, so that
They had
that's
3
let
losses, but Alabama should have definitely never been in after you just getting blown out by Georgia. But it got to the point where, and you could have tell, and you also,
you could tell
in a
in the
way,
playoff in
in
the
this way of the
rankings.
playoffs, you could tell who was their personal favorites they
Yeah.
were wanting in that thing. And it was so relieving to see that their personal favorites were not doing what they thought was going to be. Because they were
Yeah.
not favored without Indiana. That whole time, I don't care what anyone says, they didn't favor with Indiana until they had to play Miami. And when they
Yeah.
played Miami, that's when the committee and everybody was all behind Indiana and all that stuff. Because that college football playoff spot, they were not going to put Miami in unless we got a public eye on us. And I feel
Yeah.
like we got a lot of notion and we got a lot of people that were on our case. And shout out to Mario Cristobal, man. Like, Mario didn't go on those shows and like plead our case like, hey, man, head to head should matter, we would have never even got the thing. We would have got robbed just like we did with that Cam Ward season. Like they didn't put us in because our defense wasn't believable. But at the same time, we're scoring 50 to 60 points a game. And I mean, we were playing nice teams. It wasn't like we were
They
just
had
playing
three
cupcake
losses that
teams.
year. They had three losses though that year,
We had
right?
two. We had
Oh,
two
okay.
that
Okay.
year because we lost to Virginia Tech the last game.
That'll
21-point lead and then lost it.
yeah, that'll hurt. Uh which I know you said you watch College Game Day a lot. Which college coach could cut the best wrestling promo?
Dude, Nick Saban seems like he could be an interesting one.
Yeah. He's the type where if he talks, you listen.
I gotta say, I don't think Cristobal would cut a good wrestling promo.
Yeah.
Um, Signetti definitely wouldn't. um, hate
I
to
feel
say
like
it,
a
might be Notre Dame.
Dan Lanning might,
Dan Lanning, and I think Notre Dame's coach would
Marcus
actually cut
Freeman,
a really, I think he would really cut a good heel promo, especially if Ohio State's coach.
Ryan Day.
Especially that little whining thing that he had
Yeah.
going on. I think that would have been an interesting promo.
Other than one player, which Miami player would have been the best professional wrestler? Other than the one. They can't name the Rock. Which
It's
other
got to be
player
Mark
that
Fletcher, bro. Looking at that man, he's a truck.
all right, that's yeah,
If
that's
it's
pretty
like an
fair.
old school wrestling look that you want, Mark
Yeah.
Fletcher fits it to the T.
Yeah.
If you want a charismatic entertainer, so I gotta say Cam Ward. I mean, you just put a
He
little
has
bit
some
of more
flash,
muscle on
yeah.
him, bro. Cam Ward had an entertainment factor to the T. I mean, swagger.
Right.
He could have got the crowd behind him, stuff like that. I mean, he could have spit amazing promos. I mean, Cam, Cam made it look like he was the number one draw.
Yeah. Now I haven't been to a Miami game before. I don't know if they have a specific song they walk out to, but what entrance song would represent Miami football right now? What walkout song?
Ballin' Boys.
Yeah.
That one's the heads the first one. Um, I love when they come out to "In the Air." I
Yeah,
love that. I feel it, and
yeah.
when you hear that song, you know I remember all season, like, at Hard Rock. I really wanna go to a Hard Rock game because everyone talks about, like, Hard Rock is, like, pure like, you're in a WWE event. The lights are flickering, it's noisy all the time, like, it was r I just love hearing the description. When they say when you hear it "In the Air," it's like, "Oh, it's about to go down." Like,
I
they're here.
I've been to Hard Rock for the Orange Bowl,
Uh-huh.
a couple years ago. The college football semifinal, Notre Dame and Penn State. I was at that game.
Okay, yep.
Uh, the only thing I don't like is I love college towns. I love college stadiums. I don't really enjoy when a college team plays in a professional stadium. It's
Mhm.
just not the same, you know?
You could tell that's what they really were looking for this season
Yeah,
too, because all the home games I mean, Miami played 8 home games this season. Um,
yeah.
so I mean, everyone talks about it, man. Hard Rock is a different experience.
So we're coming down to my last little bit. I do a rapid fire right at the end. I'm thinking about calling it a 2 minute drill just because it's boom, boom, boom. And then we'll get you out of here. Uh, who's your favorite wrestler of all time?
The Rock.
The Rock. Favorite Miami player?
I'm gonna say Carson Beck now.
Carson Beck. Okay. Uh, was there a best wrestling promo you've ever seen?
Cody's when he won the title, the first title,
Yeah.
I think that promo was very exceptional.
One Miami game that you wish you could relive?
If it was changed different, the Indiana game, obviously.
I don't think you can go back and change it, but you can relive it.
I mean, that feel just all the way, like, it was really cool to actually see that this one game, we weren't we weren't projected to win, but at the same
Yeah.
time, you weren't
You were there.
doubting it. You weren't
Yeah.
doubting them this season, that go round. It got to a point, like, we voted for y'all to lose the whole time. Y'all proved us wrong. Here y'all are. Prove us that y'all belong. And it was like that felt like that was the coolest one.
One wrestling match you wish you could relive.
Which one?
One wrestling match you wish you could relive. Would it be your
Um,
comeback match,
yeah.
or would it be a professional match that you've watched?
Um, I would have loved. I mean, that tag match was really cool. I mean, the
Yeah,
only thing that was bitter is we never did the one on one between me and
yeah,
him. Um, that would be something I would definitely wanted to definitely finish. Um, but that Cody and Roman match, man, WrestleMania 40,
yeah,
it's up there. I put it up with The Rock and Austin, like the whole story with it. I don't know if you saw it, but the ending was like I'm a big superhero fan, and I predicted that whole build was going to be like the Avengers Infinity War, and
yeah.
then it was going to be that end game feel, and you get that full match between Cody and Roman. Roman and Cody, they were in this tag match the night before. Roman's with The Rock. Like, my God, The Rock's back in the ring. He goes 45 minutes. Like, this dude, jacked as can be, and was like, he didn't lose a step. And obviously, the prediction was if Cody and Seth lost, Roman picks the stipulation, whatever.
Hmm.
If Cody wins, Cody gets to pick the stipulation, the bloodline out, whatever. So that Cody loses, he has to go fight under, and then it's bloodline rules, and the whole 3 years that Roman's been a champ, it was just like Roman was untouchable. He beat Roman. Roman beat him at the WrestleMania that everyone thought, which was the craziest thing, where it was dead silent, boos out of the building when Cody lost that match. I remember I was upset. I haven't reacted in a wrestling match like that in a long time. I cried, like, because I knew what it took for him to get to that, and, like, seeing that, and then when you get that WrestleMania 40 and that very end, Roman hits him with that spear, and then Solo comes out, and, he starts doubling on Cody, and I'm like, "Oh, man, it's about to relive all this stuff again." Then you get John Cena to come out, you got Jey Uso and all them, like, and then the coolest part, I thought of the match, obviously, me being a Rock fan, you got an encounter with John Cena and The Rock in the ring one more time, like, the stuff that they put in, in
Hmm.
2011 and up. And it was just a nostalgia feeling. Like that whole match really proved that Cody, hey man, all that crap that you've been through in the past, you left, you went and made yourself in the independence, you went and revamped your career, you did all these things, you build an AEW, you did all these things, you build an alternative promotion, you go head to head with WWE for a long time, and then now instead of worrying about everyone else, you worried about yourself. I mean, you betted on yourself, and you were a main eventer. You weren't just this mid card Stardust looking character. You finally proved that you were the main talent, and that was something that he wanted for the longest time. And then when he finally won that title, man, it just the building, it felt like a movie. And you
Yeah,
don't really, and for wrestling fans nowadays, it's hard to get a reaction like that to a baby face. And for that feel where crowds were crying and stuff like that, like it felt like their brother or one of their relatives finally won that match. It's just a feeling that I've never seen in pro wrestling in a long time. And I feel like that's what kind of makes it hard on the crowd nowadays is because what they gave for that one match, and
yeah,
it's like you can't double it anymore. And I think that was the most iconic thing they've done in a long time.
that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Well, thank you again, Warren, for coming on. Remind us again where we can find you.
Hey man, you can find me on all social medias. I can't name them all because I feel like there's too many social medias.
Yeah,
I can name a few. Obviously, Facebook. You can follow me at the Real Buzzing with Marlowe. You can find me on X. I'm not on it. I'm there, but I'm not on it. Too many craziness. Instagram, TikTok. I'm not great on TikTok, but I do put shorts out on it. Um, What's the other ones? Threads. I've heard of that one.
and of course
Um,
YouTube.
yeah, of course, YouTube. I'm always on YouTube. Every Saturday or Sunday, with my boy Dre on Wheels from the 11:30 podcast, we have commission talks. We talk pro wrestling. We talk dad rants. We just have a lot of fun for like an hour and a half. And we educate you, man. We don't judge you. If you like what you like, we're not going to sit here and say, hey, man, you're not a real wrestling fan because you don't watch New Japan or something like that. I cut that already off the rip. I'm like, hey, I'm speaking on a wrestling perspective. He speaks on a fan perspective. So you get two different personalities and too many options. Like, if you're not very familiar with pro wrestling, you can get two different outlooks and see if that's something that you could tune into. If not, we're pretty entertaining.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to put us over too high, but we are pretty entertaining. Like I say, you get two different perspectives. I act like a fool at times. Um, I'm a father, husband, so I have a lot of cool little traits. But I mean, it's time. It's that day that, like we talked about off the camera, you get that little moment. It's like just to relieve. If I
yeah,
if I don't get my gym time, I can have this, and I feel a little relaxed. So definitely check out Buzzing with Marlowe, man. We have a lot of cool stuff. I've had a lot of past guests. The 100th episode, I know it wasn't the best camera quality, but you can go and check that out. I mean, it was 2 hours, but man, I'm telling you, you will be entertained. Um, the way that we did that, and I mean, and then we did a whole season based off of how we were going to get this match together, was like it was a real cool story that I told through each season. Like first season, pro wrestler after wrestling type scenario. And then got to that second season, a little bit about myself. Then it got to that third season to where we were teasing that my health was way more than it used to be until that last episode where I announced that I was coming back into pro wrestling. Fourth season was me talking about my break was basically, hey, the break was supposedly me preparing myself to get back in pro wrestling, but at the same time, we did little skits back and forth between me and him through guests that might add to where it was just a very entertaining factor. Like you got a bit of that story each episode. You had the guests that I had on, you had what the topic was, what they wanted to talk about, but you also got to have a little bit more Easter eggs about what we did until when we had the big show and stuff like that. So I definitely had a lot of fun with this thing. It's creative. Um, Never thought I would do anything like this ever. Uh, I only liked spitting promos and stuff like that, and then to be some type of a broadcast type scenario, it was just never in the books for me. I was more
Yeah.
just the athlete with the headphones on, and it came to a point it was like, "Hey, I like this. This is kind of fun." So it was like, got more drawn into it and got when I get attached to something, man, I really go in and try to give my all, and that's something I'm very proud with this. I try to stay as consistent as I can with it, at least get one episode a weekend. So it's just been a awesome, awesome experience.
Good deal. Good deal. Well, thank you again for coming and joining. This has been another episodes of Saturdays and Stories. We'll see you next Saturday.
Go Canes.